Akram Vignan. Simple and effective science for self-realization. Chapter 1. What is the goal of a human life?
This life is all fractured. One does not even know why he is living his life. There is no meaning in a life without a goal. One earns money, enjoys his meals, and worries the whole day long. How can that be the goal of a human life? How can this human life not be wasted? After being born as a human being, what should one do to attain the goal? If you want happiness of worldly comforts, bhautik sukh, then share with others what you have. Learn the law of this world in just one sentence. The essence of all religions of the world is that if you want happiness, give happiness to others. And if you want to suffer, give pain to others. Do what is suitable to you. Some will inquire how to help others when they are poor. There are ways to help others even if you are poor. This is by having an obliging nature. You may run chores and errands for him, advise him, etc. There are so many ways to help others.
Two types of goals, worldly and final.
Two types of goals need to be decided. The first is that you have to live your life in such a way that no living being is hurt by you. You have to spend your time in the company of those who promote the attainment of the self, satsang, and vicinity of good human beings, and avoid bad company, kusang, as much as possible. This should be the aim. And in the second goal, if you happen to meet a living pratyaksh gnani purush, one who has fully realized the self, and is able to impart the knowledge of the self to others, attain self-realization from him, then remain in his satsang. With him, all your goals will be accomplished, and all your puzzles will be solved, and one will attain liberation. So what then is the final goal of a human being? Liberation. Moksha should be the only goal. You do want liberation, don't you? For how much longer do you want to keep on wandering aimlessly? You have done only this for infinite lives. You have not left any place to wander. Why did you have to suffer such endless wanderings? This is because you have not known your true identity. You have not known the answer to, who am I? Should you not know your real self? Despite the extensive wanderings of countless lives, you do not even know who you really are. Is making money your only goal in life? Should you not be making some effort towards your liberation, moksha? A human being can indeed become God, the absolute self, Paramatma. To attain one's own absolute self is the final goal of a human being.
Two stages of liberation.
Ordinarily, by liberation, that is moksha, we mean release or freedom from the cycle of birth and death.
Yes, it is true. But that is the final stage of liberation. It is the secondary stage. The first stage of liberation is where you experience a sense of freedom from inner turmoil, secondary to worldly problems and miseries. One experiences indifference towards any worldly pains. In the midst of suffering imposed upon you by others or external factors, upadhi, you experience freedom from suffering and experience the bliss of the self, samadhi. That is the first stage of liberation. The second stage of liberation, permanent moksha, is attained when all the karma are completely exhausted, settled, and this is the freedom from the cycles of birth and death. The first stage of liberation, moksha, should be attained here and now. I experience this first stage of moksha all the time. Liberation should be such that even while one lives amongst the worldly things, one remains unaffected by them. Such a stage of liberation is possible through Akram Vignan, the spiritual science of the stepless path to self-realization.
Chapter 2. Attainment of eternal bliss through self-realization.
What do all living beings, jivas, search for? They are looking for happiness. But the happiness is short-lived. People go out to weddings and to the theatre for entertainment, but their misery returns again. When unhappiness follows happiness, How can you call it happiness? It is the happiness of delusion. Happiness should be permanent. This is nothing but temporary happiness, an imaginary happiness. What is every soul, Atma, searching for? It is looking for happiness. Happiness that is eternal. People believe it will come from this or it will come from that. I will buy this. I will do that. I will build a bungalow. Then I will be happy. I will buy a car. Then I will be happy. They keep on doing this. But no happiness comes their way. On the contrary, they sink deeper and deeper into the mire of pain and confusion. True happiness, bliss lies within. It lies in the self itself. Therefore, if you attain the self, you attain the eternal happiness.
Happiness and misery.
Everyone is in search of happiness, but without having decided what happiness is. Happiness should be such that it is never followed by any misery. Go find one such happiness in this world. Eternal happiness, bliss, is within you. Your real self is an abode of infinite bliss, and yet you are looking for happiness in temporary things.
The search for permanent happiness.
If one has attained eternal bliss, and when the worldly pains do not affect him, then he has become free. Permanent bliss, Paramanand, that is verily called liberation, moksha. What is the use of any other liberation? We want happiness. Do you like happiness or not? Tell me that.
All the struggles are for that only.
Yes, you do not like that temporary happiness. Unhappiness follows this temporary happiness. That is why one does not like that. If the happiness is permanent, then unhappiness does not follow. One needs such happiness. When one attains such happiness, that is called moksha. What is the meaning of liberation? It is when one remains unaffected by any worldly unhappiness, pains, that verily is called liberation. Otherwise no one will remain unaffected by unhappiness. The worldly scientists continue working on this external science. And then there is another science. This is called internal science, which leads one towards eternal bliss. So that which helps one attain permanent happiness is called the science of self-realization. And that which helps one attain happiness through temporary adjustment is the external science. External science ultimately is destructible, and that leads to destruction. And this is permanent, which makes one permanent.
Chapter 3. I and my are separate. Gnani Purush gives original solutions.
I is God, the Self, and my is illusory attachment, Maya. My is relative to I. I is real. Without the Gnani Purush, one who has fully realized the Self and is able to impart the knowledge of the Self to others, you will never be able to know the original Self. However, I and my are completely separate. If everyone, including foreigners, understood just this much, most of their problems would lessen considerably. This is a science. This is a fundamentally unique spiritual research of Akram Vignan. I and my are absolutely separate. I is the natural state of the self, whereas my is a sense of ownership.
Separate I and my.
If I tell you to separate I and my with a separator, would you be able to do so? Do you not think it is important to separate I and my? Sooner or later you will have to know this. Separate I and my. Just as there is a method to separate curd and we, there is also a way to separate I and my. At the moment, do you identify with the my? Is I alone, or is it with my?
My is always there.
What are all the things that fall under my?
My home and all the things inside my home.
Are all of these things yours? To whom does the wife belong?
She is also mine.
And these children?
They are also mine.
And this watch?
That is also mine.
And these hands? Whose hands are these?
They are also mine.
Then you will say, my head, my body, my feet, my ears, my eyes, all these parts of your body fall under my. Then who is the person that is saying this word my? Who is the one that says all these things are mine? Have you ever thought about that? When you say, my name is Chandulal, and then you turn around and say, I am Chandulal. Do you not think there is a contradiction in this?
Yes, I think so.
You are Chandulal right now. In this Chandulal, there are both I and my. They are like the two railway lines of I and my. They always run together, yet they are always separate. They are always parallel and never become one. Despite this, you believe them to be one. This is due to the ignorance or unawareness of your true identity. Having understood this, separate the my. Keep all that comes under my to one side. For example, my heart. Keep your heart on one side. What other things do you need to separate from this body?
The feet and all the sense organs.
Yes, the 5 sense organs of perception, Jnanendriyas, and 5 organs of action, Karmendriyas, mind, intellect, chit, ego, and everything else. Chit is the subtle component of vision and knowledge in the inner functioning instrument called Antahkaran. Then do you say my egoism or do you say I am egoism?
My egoism.
By saying my egoism, you will be able to separate that too, but you are not aware of the other components that fall under my. That is why you are not able to do a complete separation. Your awareness has limitations. You are aware of only the gross, sthul components, beyond which there are subtle, sukshma components. The subtle components also need to be separated, after which there are 2 more levels of subtlety, subtler, sukshmatar, and subtlest, sukshmatam, which also need to be taken away. Only a Jnani Purush is able to achieve a separation at these subtle levels. Is it not possible to separate the two? If you keep on deducting my from I at every step and level, and put all the things that fall under my on one side, then what will remain?
The I.
That I is precisely what you are. That is the I that you need to realize. For that, you will need the Jnani Purush. I will separate everything for you. Thereafter, you will continue to experience I am pure soul, Shuddhatma. You should be able to experience that. Besides that, I will also give you the divine vision, Divya Chakshu, with which you will see the self, Atma, soul, in every living being, Atmavat Sarva Bhuteshu.